Hello and welcome to episode 105 of the Movies in a Podshell podcast, the podcast where we take a theme and we pick two films to fit that theme. This week, though, you're in for an Odyssey Spoilercast special, and as always, I'm joined by him or us, but you can call him John.
Oh, I don't even know where to go.
Yeah?
Hi. Yeah.
You know him or us, right? That's you.
No. Right.
The god of sexual longing.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, man.
I mean,
Yeah,
do you
you've
know
got
what? You don't realise this, but you've set up a really valid point in criticism about this film, which is it is completely sexless, despite the fact the original tale is filled with sex and drama, which we'll get into.
You know, and that's why I gave it 3 stars, because there's not enough sex. John,
did you actually give it 3 star?
No, of course I didn't.
Oh, right, okay. Sorry.
No, I don't want to get everyone too upset already. No. We gave it a healthy score, but we'll talk about that in a bit. We do both look like we're in a bit of a strip club, don't we?
What, the lighting?
Yeah.
You know what? You try and make it look like production value, but yeah, maybe we've tipped over to the.
It looks
edge.
fantastic. It's total all I need is a pair of clear heels, and I will be ready to go. Anyway, John, how are you? What have you been doing?
I'm good. I have been blitzing through some TV shows, which I think we're going to talk about. And I've been watching some. I have watched some films, but they all are of some classic Disney with my daughter. But that's been okay. Like
we can still talk about it.
We can
the
talk about
listeners will love it, I
films.
think.
So watched Cinderella for the first time in about 30 years or something. It's good. I like it. Do you know what? Jokes aside, what astounds me is the quality and level of animation from like 1950, whatever it is crazy. And there's some sequences where I think didn't they do the technique where they film the actors, then trace the movements and then put that like onto the cartoons and stuff. Like, yeah, it's genuinely quite incredible. The music's so old school, which I think has taken some getting used to. But no,
I like the music.
Yeah, I do. I meant more so for my daughter in terms of what she's used to. It's a very different vibe to like Tangled and etc. But yeah, so I really enjoyed that. We watched Tangled. I've seen Tangled probably about 100 times since we last spoke. And yeah, I there's a character called Mother Gothel who's a fan favourite. So like, yeah, big into that. And then in terms of TV stuff I've watched, very
you've been
unlike
blazing
me,
it, haven't you?
I started a series on Monday and I'd finished it by yesterday, which was Sunday, and that is very, very unlike me. And I think season 1 was maybe 8 or 10 episodes, I think. So I started. It's been recommended to me for a very long time. It's The Leftovers, which is on HBO Max or on Now TV. And basic concept is the idea of an event happens where 2% of the population just disappear overnight. And it's less about kind of working out what happened and more about dealing with what society does after something like that happens. And it's like a character study. It is really, really bleak. I'm not going to lie. Like it's not the easiest watch, but for some reason it's right up my street. It's got a really good cast. You've got Justin Theroux plays Kevin Garvey. Most people I think would know Christopher Eccleston. I know more from Doctor Who, but obviously
I only know from Doctor Who, really, to be honest. It's very cheesy.
Carrie Coon plays Nora Durst. She was in the most recent series of White Lotus.
Is she not all in Succession as well?
She's
not all the way throughout Succession, or have I made that up?
I didn't think she was. You've got Margaret Qualley, who plays Jill Garvey, the daughter. So yeah, there's lots of faces you'll recognise in them on there. And I don't know if this is just a HBO thing, but there's this load of actors that seem to pop up in like each of their shows and different things. So anyway, the series ran from 2014 to 2017. But I think, critically, weirdly, it says season 1 is the lowest scored, but it's still at like 90-something% on Metacritic, and then it goes all the way up to like 98%. But I've just loved it. Like it's filled with, I think it's scratching that itch. Jamie and I on the last pod were talking about Battlestar Galactica and like the theological and philosophical aspects of things, and like this is very much tapping into that. I'm really enjoying
and stuff.
Yeah, and like it's hard and it's grim, but just like also really interesting. And then you've also got like this incredible score by Max Richter. Now, if you've seen Shutter Island and know like one of the most depressing scenes in that film, Max Richter scored that. He didn't score the whole film, but his piece of music was used in that. It was used by Christopher Nolan in one of his films, and I can't actually remember which one it was, but I know he's been used multiple times by big directors for key scenes. So he's kind of anything with like a string quartet to orchestra, he seems to get like wring every last bit of emotion out. And considering the whole imagery of this program is the idea of basically the not the reaping, what's it called, like the reckoning's happened and X amount have gone up, and like what does that mean, how does society deal with that, cults emerge from it with like different beliefs, humans trying to humans, how we as people try and process that and what we do. Some people completely ignore it. I think a lot of people have found it interesting because since COVID, people are like relating it to kind of what happened there and in terms of like how different people dealt with it. So yeah, it's just really like, sorry, I'm being too keen, but it's just really fascinating show. And really, really well acted. And I would say season 1 especially does have a bit of, there are some episodes where you're not quite fully into what's happening all the time. You do have to be patient with it. However, the payoff so far has been worth it. So as long as that continues, which I'm guessing it does from the reviews I've seen, I am very much looking forward to season 2 and 3. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to, I'm sure there'll be someone out there being like, he's never worked with Chris Nolan. It wasn't Chris Nolan. I think you're getting mixed up with Arrival.
Apologies, sorry.
Which I didn't know myself. I googled it for you while we were.
Thank you.
Yeah,
he's definitely did Shutter Island because I can remember that one vividly because that's how I got introduced to his music.
I think it's a good point you make because I was actually thinking about COVID when you were talking about Leftovers, and I think that you don't ever realize like how human beings do react until there is a crisis. Like, because crises are like, they're so few and far between and they're such a rare event. It is almost like when something like, it's always, I bet you like the government had something in play where it's like, if there's a pandemic, this is what we do. And I guarantee you when the pandemic happened, no one knew what to do. They were like the headless chickens, which I guess most people would be unless you're really, really like NASA, I guess, like who are like really like, I guess they wouldn't, I bet NASA, if something happened, they would know exactly what to do within an inch of its life. Whereas like with the government, they are just knobheads. So yeah, anyway.
It's also interesting, sorry, I was about to say, on the basis of like, I then Googled, this is really morbid, but I actually Googled what the number of like, maybe it's controversial, but I Googled in relation to, because people were comparing it to COVID, like what was the statistical thing? I mean, one's a fictional show, let's not be rather bush.
Well, how many people died from COVID?
Yeah, and it's much, much smaller than the percentage that happens in this show, but there is definitely a transferable thing about some people decide to completely ignore it ever happened. Some people talk about it all the time. Some people, and it's kind of like, have you noticed there's like very few films or media or books around COVID because no one wants to talk about it or think about it. So it's like a really interesting thing. And like in The Leftovers, there's the whole plot is basically people not wanting to talk about the thing that's happened, which launches the whole program. And it's 3 years on and it's showing like how society's just kind of broken down and like how that happens. And then there's certain parts of the world which had 0 people removed in the departure. So what does that mean? So it happens to be in Texas, there's 0. So they're like, oh, well, what does that mean? Like, because, they're known for being very religious, like general stereotype down there.
Yeah.
It's really, really interesting. Really interesting.
It's interesting when you say about COVID because maybe we're just in such an infancy, like still, and everyone's still getting over it, and we none of us want to. I don't ever want to watch anything ever again about COVID because I find it so boring. It's unbelievable. Like, don't get me wrong, I would love another lockdown where I was allowed to sit. I was forced to sit in a house and not like socialize with anyone, and I could watch films all day.
I would playing Pro Evolution Soccer with me till 2 a.m. That was,
and watching about 5 films a day. But like if you think about it, like over the years, I guess like these things. I think one of the biggest ones is obviously the AIDS crisis. There's loads of like media about that, and I don't really know enough about it, whether it came out. It was coming out at the time or whether it came out years later, because I'd imagine there probably is some bits around it, but ultimately no one wants to, whoever has just like lived through it doesn't particularly, I would imagine, not want to like watch it.
And do you know what, there was a really, really well done, I really enjoyed it, but it sounds weird with the subject matter, but there was a show called I think it was called This Is England or This England by Kenneth Branagh, played Boris Johnson. and it only got released. I mean, it was about I think it was about 2022, and people were like, "This is too soon. Like, this is still happening, and you're like making a show about it." Yeah, it came out 2022, and we were only really like on the back end of it, and people were like, "This is too soon," but it was very good. Like, I would recommend, but it was a bloody hard watch because it was so recent. It was just like, this isn't. Well, it's never going to be fun to watch. That's not the word, but it's never like something you really want to think about or revisit and whatever.
Anyway, and Chernobyl's it's like I didn't even experience Chernobyl, obviously, because I live in the UK, but I had to psych myself up to watch that because you know what you're about to watch is like just harrowing. But anyway, for those of you who hate,
so I was about to say, last thing on that. We were talking about shows we watched in lockdown. The first show I decided to watch was Chernobyl, and I remember thinking on day one, this was a terrible choice. And then I spoke to my cousin who recommended Leftovers, and he said he watched that in COVID, and at the time he was like, "This is a bad choice to be watching this at this moment in time." But anyway, there we are. Enough about that. What have you been watching?
Whoever hates COVID, I do apologise for that small section of the pod because I don't like listening about it anymore. I don't even like talking about it. But anyway, anything so you blitzed that. Anything else you've been watching?
No? Silo season 3 we're about 3 or 4 episodes into that now. It's still very good. It is just painstakingly slow. I find it hard. I love Rebecca Ferguson. I think she's brilliant. It is Rebecca Ferguson, is it? I've said that.
It is.
That is her name. Yeah. And she's a very good lead. And her character, the best thing is she's kind of an arse, but she's always kind of right, and just doesn't give two hoots about the status quo. And she just plays it really, really well. But yeah, it's just slightly frustrating as a show because it's based, I think, on 3 books.
3 books, yeah. Wool. I think the first book's called Wool. I just can't be asked with when they're stretching things out. I felt the same about Pluribus, which is well documented. Like we spoke about it. Me and John were together yesterday because we had a little barbecue. Which
your
was the first
Pluribus criticism is literally bang on though in terms of something that was maybe 6 episodes, which has become 10, and like. Netflix used to do this. Do you remember when 13 Reasons Why came out?
Yeah,
and it was like 13 Reasons Why I felt legitimately had a reason for being 13 episodes. But then suddenly they were like, everything has to be 13 episodes. It's like, why?
Everything like, around 2013?
Something like that.
About 2013, 2000, something like that.
House of Cards did it as well, didn't they? Yeah. House of Cards did it as well. So that they kind of set their precedent of like what it was.
Exactly, and I think that's why HBO get it so right, because they kind of just do, and so do Apple to a degree, they kind of just do whatever, they don't stick to the status quo. It's like one season could be like 9 episodes, one season could just have half an hour episodes, and I think really we fall short. We do not need more content. That is not what we need, because there's so much.
Because what they're trying to do is sell their platform on the basis of how many hours worth of stuff they have, and this is kind of the situation you get it. But
well, that's a fantastic point. That's a fantastic point, yeah. And so
I feel like if you, I would never not recommend Silo because I do actually really enjoy it, but I just kind of wish that it dropped 3 episodes and we could have the pacing be a little bit. I
won't watch it based on that. Like based on that, I'm just like, well, there's so many other things on HBO that I've not watched yet, and there's things on Apple that I haven't watched yet that I'm really interested in.
We do need to talk about. I finished Euphoria. Oh my god.
You finished season 3 of Euphoria. I've not started it yet, so should we talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep it spoiler free, but I would say the fall off, I think, is large. And I mean, this is from someone who's been an ardent fan and defender pretty much throughout the whole thing. It's just a very different show. Like it's. I understand they graduated from high school and all the rest of it. I don't have any problem with that. They wanted to change the visual language of the show because each series, like the first one, was very like neon-y, and this is the criticism of the female photographer they stole all the work from, if you remember we talked about it. But anyway, it was like the kind of style we've got on with like colourful LED background and whatever else. Then the second series was like, we want to remember high school as if it was how we remember it in our memory, so we're going to shoot on film and it's going to be this really over the top dramatic look. And then season 3 is like, hey, we're going for a western, which is a weird thing. It basically wants to be a Tarantino film, and it's not a Tarantino film, and like it's not as like the dialogue's not as good and what have you. And there's some good performances and some good individual moments, but as a whole, it doesn't work. Like there's too many. It feels so far removed from those first 2 series, And also, he's got big issues for me with the fact that every person who's not Zendaya and one of the character who's female is a sex worker. There's just no like it. There's no It's very strange. But like with
It's just
Rue,
misery porn, isn't it? Like a lot of the time. Like I'm really not into this. What's his name? I can't remember his
Sam
name.
Levinson.
Sam Levinson. I'm really not. He's basically done, in my opinion, he's done one season of really like
Agreed.
immaculate telly, and that's kind of all he's done. He's a bit, and there's a fantastic question later, but he is a victim of his own success more, like I think. But maybe it was just luck. Maybe he's obviously plagiarized.
I think also he had a producer or a partner who worked with him who, like a production partner who died. And I think that might have been, there was a bit of quality control or creative
Steve Jobs situation, is it?
Well, every so often you get, I don't know, there's like creative partnerships where they work really well together, but when they go off individual, or they get the George Lucas syndrome of everything you do is great, and then there's no pushback, you end up with something that's not that great.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what happened. But the main issue with Euphoria season 3 is when you watch it, you can literally feel the production schedule of every single actor. Because
you said that. Like, they've had him for one day, kind of thing.
Yeah, they got him for a day, they got so for a day, and it is just frustrating. But I think the biggest thing for me, and I won't go too into it because I've talked about it before, but just score wise, they got rid of Labyrinth, or he walked away, whichever way, and it suffers massively because he was the core of that show in terms of the feel and the vibe of it. And I think his music is part of the disconnect of why it doesn't feel connected. And I think, as you say, I think season 1 is, I wouldn't say perfect, but it's a very, very good, solid series. And it kind of went downhill from there. But I remember in season 2, there were complaints about like the scripts were too loose and like they weren't following it. Because if you watch behind the scenes for 1, it was like religiously, like they'd had it mapped out and it was boarded like basically completely. And you can tell as they went through that reduced. I mean, I think Zendaya said she did about half the filming schedule for this series, despite the fact she's in it as much as she normally is. So yeah, time strapped and all the rest of it.
Well,
excuse me. Anyway, what have you been watching and
what have I been watching? A few little bits. So, and I don't really know what. So I watched The Sheep Detectives. Have I told you about that? So
you have not.
The Sheep Detectives, directed by Kyle Balder, who you might know from the Minions films. This is kind of a live action murder mystery from the sheep's point of view. So we've got Hugh Jackman starring, and then you've got all of the sheep, which is like Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Bryan Cranston, Chris O'Dowd, Regina Hall, Patrick Stewart, Bella Ramsey. Like you've got loads, like an absolute star-studded cast. And this is just really sweet and heartwarming. It's on Amazon Prime. I loved it. It reminded me a little bit of Hot Fuzz. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed it, and I'd highly recommend. So it's just something really nice. You might have a little cry as well while you're watching it, but just funny, heartwarming, worth a watch.
Nice.
Yeah, good. So then I watched. So I also watched another Prime. Prime are doing some really good stuff at the moment. Obviously, as everyone knows, my favorite billionaire is Jeff Bezos.
We chatted about this yesterday.
We were, yeah. And to anyone who doesn't know, that's a joke. I watched them Over Your Dead Body with Samara Weaving and Jason Segel. This is basically just a couple that they go to this this remote cabin, and they've both planned to kill each other.
Oh, okay.
That
sounds like the kind of film she would be in, because like she's kind of the horror queen, isn't she?
She loves it. Yeah, she's a proper scream queen, and she is great. Like I really enjoyed this. I'd probably give it I did give it 3.5 stars. But yeah, it's just good fun. Like it's got Timothy Olyphant and Juliette Lewis as well, who are both brilliant. But yeah, it's just a gory thriller, comedy, horror kind of situation, and it was very, very nice. I then watched a film called Straitjacket, directed by William Castle, who you might know, that's done like The Tingler, House on Haunted Hill. I've spoken about The Tingler before on the pod. He's also done a cracker called Homicidal. Lots of old films from like the 60s. John's just laughing at all of the
titles.
The
I was like, interesting.
Yeah. But this is basically about so Joan Crawford. She is been in an asylum for a double murder, and she returns to her estranged daughter, and then they start getting suspicious about her behavior. So this is a 1960s film, right? Obviously 4 years after Psycho. And this is like, we're seeing axe murders. Like, it's very surprising.
So it's before the Italian giallos and like the.
I would say it's
is
before the giallos, yeah, because that was more 70s. But it's yeah, but it's before Halloween. It's before Black Christmas. So I would say this is probably like a little hybrid slasher that you would probably watch in between. But really good, fantastic twist at the end. If you know William Castle, and I would recommend watching Homicidal because that's also got a good twist. I don't like telling people when there's a twist in the film, but
yeah, because it kind of kills the vibe.
Stick it on your list and then forget that I said that and then go and watch it. But yeah, really good fun. Then I watched Quantum of Solace. I just really fancied watching Quantum of Solace.
I'm really jealous you watched that. I love that film. I know it's not a perfect Bond, and Jamie and I were talking about this in great detail. It was written before the writer's strike in 2008. So literally, Daniel Craig was... it was released 2008, but the writer's strike must have been the year before. But he was literally writing the script to get it finished so the production could keep going and all the rest of it. That film is like really much better if you watch it immediately after Casino Royale. If you watch it as a standalone, it's like it doesn't really stand up on its own. Like it needs those links, otherwise it's a bit hollowed out. But I don't feel like I read an interview with Daniel Craig. It wasn't actually supposed to be as linked to Casino Royale previously, right. But like it was a thing that was added later on in the day. But I mean, there's some brilliant sequences in it. I love it.
There are, and it looks fantastic. I think for me, a lot of people slate Quantum of Solace. I think if you're going to give Casino Royale a 9.5, which is what I'm going to give it, because I think it's one of the greatest action films and the best Bond film, then this is 6.5, a 7 at absolute max. It's a 6.5 probably. It's a little bit unfocused. It's pure misery, like the whole entire film is misery. But I kind of like that because you're so not used to Bond being like that.
Oh yeah, it is quite miserable. I was it's not that miserable.
No, it's very like Bond is a cold-hearted killer throughout the entire film. It's mental.
That's what he is in the book.
Yeah, and I'm also not a fan of how the action's shot.
It is that kind of rapid cuts, you can't really see what's happening era. But like the opening car chase is one of my favourite things to watch because I've watched it over 100 times. I still don't fully know what's happening. So
right.
like every time,
exactly.
Every time you watch it, you're like, oh, it's new. Because like everyone's got, Jamie and I've talked about this. Everyone's got their hi-fi testing things. So Jamie's always it's Blade Runner, Blu-ray, and the opening the 4K one. My one is always opening sequence Quantum of Solace. Like as a 5.1 sound mix, it is incredible, and just one of my favourite things to watch. But speaking of which, Jamie, I actually recently, this is nerdy section for John. I'm very much into my film scores, as you've probably all guessed from listening.
You are massively into film scores.
I had to get this from Germany because it's not available in the UK, which was the Quantum of Solace expanded score. So it's normally you get like a CD with about 40 minutes, 50 minutes worth. This is like full blown, best part of 2 hours. And it even has because they go to the opera. And there's the opera sequence. One of my favourite Bond sequences is when he goes to the opera and all the sound effects go off, and it's just the music of the opera and the drama happening around it as he starts shooting. I think it's absolutely incredible. In a better Bond film, it would be even better. But there we are.
Yeah.
It's got those tracks on there, and really cool. He didn't do the music for the video game, but it's got all the video game music on there. And I just find that quite interesting. And I used to love playing that on my Xbox 360. So anyway.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Tangent.
Right, well, so I was dead excited to see a film called The Furious, which was in cinemas quite a short period of time. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be ages to streaming. This is was it Japanese? I'm really sorry if it's not. I think it's Japanese. Anyway, this is basically 2025, 2026, The Raid. That's what this is. So you've basically got a daughter of a guy. She's kidnapped by a criminal network, and he's basically getting no help from the police, who are all in on it. They're all corrupt. So he sets out on a rampage to find her himself. He's got a little ally who's his wife has also disappeared, and they just go for vengeance. And I tell you what, just breathtaking stuff. If we're comparing it to the Raid, which again, like that is the pinnacle. I think the script was like quite corny, like quite cheesy at times. It didn't really work. And there's the thing I don't like nowadays, as I guess is, and we'll speak about this at length actually, when we talk about the Odyssey, is that we have really because like, and it's the same as in work. I tell you what, all I'd look at all day is AI slop everywhere, and people are losing their brains, and then people are also losing their passion. And so when this film is like mostly physical, but there are some like blood after effects, and you can just tell they're after effects, and I just don't like it. I prefer if
That'll
you're
be
going to
costs,
do all.
though, won't it?
Well, if you say that again.
Do you think that'll be cost saving on their front?
Well, maybe, but I think to get a couple of like what they called squibs and stuff. Like, I just don't think how cost saving are you going to go if you've gone to the trouble of choreographing all this crazy martial arts.
What rating was the film?
Why are we drawing the line there, huh?
What rating was the film?
Well, it was definitely an 18.
Okay, so normally this doesn't apply then from what you've said, but the reason they stopped using scripts was the idea was a 12A was basically you could batter someone and shoot the hell out of them in like a Bourne film or a Bond film as long as they didn't have blood. And it was like that weird kind of thing that kind of allowed censorship to be okay with those things. Okay. Go on. So, but if you said the film's already an 18, I don't really understand the logic.
Well, I'm just checking on the BBFC now, but yes, it's an 18. So the BBFC say it's an 18. Strong bloody violence, injury detail, violence, horror, no sex whatsoever. And that's why I only give it 4 stars. Just like the Odyssey. So it's Hong Kong actually. So I do apologise. For some reason, I thought it was Japanese because I'm not even going to go there. Someone will be like, "Wow, that name is not Japanese." But there we go. That's my ignorance. So yeah, I had loads of fun. Brilliant. Wait, go on.
Sorry, keep going. I've just thought of the other major film I saw, which I forgot to mention, which is very important.
You have watched films, yeah. Quite an emotional story, which is unexpected, like considering it's a super violent film. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. Yeah, The Furious.
Have you seen Toy Story 5?
No, and you've also seen Disclosure Day, which you've not spoke about.
I'm doing so well because I'm so used to having not watched things and just talking about the TV shows I've watched. I saw Toy Story 5 and I did enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, I'm well aware it's not aimed at me. It kind of is, but it isn't. I'm one of those people that grew up with it and I'm now a parent, so I'm it's trying to message me in different ways. But no, I did enjoy it. It was interesting to me how I'm not going into spoilers with it, but which characters are more prominent than others. It's not maybe
I think it's well documented. Even I know that, and I've not seen it yet. But yeah, I heard that like Woody's kind of like he may as well not have been in it, so they've kind of crowbarred him in. But
yeah, he did not need to participate.
I'll watch it. I'm not giving Disney any money though, so I'm not going to go to the cinema and see it. In fact, actually, sorry, I'm talking out my arse because I'm going to see Spider-Man next week.
I was going to say, well, yeah, exactly. But yeah, I very much, I enjoyed it. I mean, you know what you're getting with a Toy Story film. You know what beats it's going to hit and like what moments. It's about like that awkward age of childhood when they're trying to make friends and like trying to fit in with. She's got friends who do have iPads and friends who don't, and then it's like asking parents like, how do you feel about integrating technology with your children and all the rest of it. But it did make me laugh, the irony where it's basically like most kids who watch this film are probably watching it on an iPad anyway. Like the irony
probably.
Anyway,
does your daughter has she got a mobile phone yet?
No, funny enough, no.
Okay.
No.
She's 3, for anyone who's wondering.
I was about to say, the other film I did go and see at the cinema as well, which we've got to talk about, was Disclosure Day by Steven Spielberg. Now,
I've not seen this yet, so it is now. Spoilers. I've missed it in the cinema, so it's now streaming. So I will watch it. But don't say the thing that I said to you that I've read everywhere about what film people are comparing it to.
No, I won't go into that. I would say
tell us about it though.
Fantastic individual performance from Emily Blunt. Really, really good. Amazing choreography of sequences and staging by Steven Spielberg. Some amazing camera bits and pieces. However, there is some shonky CG, which really takes you out of it. It's a real shame. And I thought it was just me initially. And then I listened to the Ollie Harper review, and he talks about a few sequences which stuck out to him, and it was exactly the bits that I said. Then I saw some kind of, what did you call it? Cope bait. Not cope bait.
What did I call it?
You know, when someone tries to cope with something, they come up with
copium.
Copium.
Yeah. What was the copium?
And it was like, well, I can't actually tell it.
No, you can't actually.
But basically, some of the reasoning behind people are giving up. But yeah, there's some shonky stuff, and it's weird because if you watch War of the Worlds in comparison, it honestly, some of those sequences looks better. And
Okay.
in my mind, like we watched
Yeah.
that not that long ago for the pod, or it's probably a while ago now, but I've got a recent enough memory of that film to know what it looks like. And I'm just like, that's not okay.
Do you think it's because they're changing things in the studio rather than storyboarding it all? So, like, you think they've like added something in last minute? Because when you spend in like close to £200 million on a film, how does that slip through the net?
I don't know. The other thing about that film, because we're going to talk about cinematography a lot, and we need to get onto that film soon. But I was going to say, there's not. It doesn't look like a $200 million film,
Right? Okay.
and I think that's one of my biggest issues with it. Was like considering the subject matter, and it must have got must have gone on the cast.
Sorry, I do apologize. No, I do apologize. It's nowhere
Problem.
near. It cost 115, which is actually pretty cheap.
Oh, okay, fine. That makes more sense. But yeah, in terms of like leads and what have you, I love Colin Firth in it. He plays a bad guy for a change. Rather, that's not a spoiler. That's from the off. And like, I'd love to see that. There's some really good. Again, we've done a lot of theology and philosophy recently, but there is a bit of that to it, and like questioning that. That was one of the most interesting parts of me, and it kind of didn't really lead anywhere, and I found it frustrating. And it's one of those films where, for Spielberg, normally by the end there's a meaning to take away from it, and it's like, I now feel this about this, and that's done that. It's a bit like War of the Worlds. When that film finishes, there is a level of, well, what was the point of that? Like, what's it actually about? And there is a bit of that for this. It's like, what are you trying to say from this? Like, what's the message? And maybe it hasn't got a message, but it hasn't got enough fun action or other stuff to make it worthwhile on that side of it either.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think it might have been Mark Kermode that said it, and he said, "This is a film made by a man in his 70s. This is a film that feels like it should have been released in the 70s." That's what he says.
I think that is fair. However, we are 31 minutes in. I think.
Hold on, no. I want to talk about two.
Sorry.
Quick. I'm so sorry. I watched Backrooms finally. I was really excited to watch it. Finally watched it. It took me ages. This is basically based on like a game. And this was kind of, people keep putting it in the same box as Obsession because of like low budget, young director, and it's done really well. I hated this. Honestly, and they've got a cheek to give an extended cut as well, which adds an extra 14 minutes. I wish it had taken 14 minutes away. It's got Renate Reinsve in it, who was in a film called The Worst Person in the World, which is really, really good. And sentimental value, like she's on the map. However, I really disliked this. I found it didn't make any. I say it didn't make any sense. It didn't explain anything. It was just plodding and slow. And the beginning probably half an hour I really enjoyed because it was like a handheld, almost like a handheld footage film, which was much better. But then the longer it went, it's almost like it's almost like it just didn't know where it wanted to go, or the studio has got involved and kind of decided that they're going to go in a certain direction. But anyway, lots of people like it. I hate it. Am I coming out of the speakers down there? Because it sounds like I am. I can hear myself back. Okay. And then the only other film I wanted to was The Prophecy. So The Prophecy, which was from 1995. That's better, whatever you've done. So I take the opportunity to talk about films like this because I know that some of the listeners are like, oh yeah, like a deep cut. So I'll sometimes get a message and be like, when you were talking about this, oh my God, I haven't seen that in years. It reminded me of this, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I've got The Prophecy it was on my watch list for some reason. And I for some reason chose to watch it over Citizen Kane, which is also on my watch list. This is a film by Gregory Wyden, who maybe you don't know because he wrote all the Highlander films and he's only ever directed one film. So this is like a film about Angel Gabriel coming to Earth to collect a soul which will end the stalemate war in heaven, which I love this kind of story, by the way. I love heaven versus hell when they've got like angels and they're all named. And anyway, they've hidden this soul inside a Native American girl, and only a former priest and a school teacher can stop him. Now, we've got Elias Koteas, who is in like stuff like Shutter Island, Zodiac, but he's most importantly Casey Jones in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We've also got Virginia Madsen, but we've also got Christopher Walken playing Angel Gabriel and Oh my goodness, it's ridiculous. Like if it didn't exist, you would never believe it, because he is just chewing the scenery in every single frame that he's in. Just as you can imagine, he's doing Christopher Walken stuff, but he's pretending to be an angel, and it's fantastic work from him, and he really raises it. Also, a little appearance from Viggo Mortensen towards the end of the film as well, which is quite good. So yeah, The Prophecy. I found that today from a friend of the show that there's actually 5 of these films, and Christopher Walken's in 3 of them. I can't believe it. This is crazy. So anyway, yeah, I probably will start what. It's the kind of film I'd probably put on if I was pissed. Towards the end of the night, that's what I would do, because I'd be like, let's watch Christopher Walken as Angel Gabriel. So anyway, there we go. Anyway, John, before we start, the listeners need to know they can go onto Spotify, they can go onto Amazon Music, and they can subscribe to us. Normally you've got to touch the bell, touch the bell, turn it on, and then they'll just end up in your feed and you'll get notified when we release an episode. But as well as that, you can go on moviesinapodshell.sumupstore.com and you can buy a t-shirt, which is a mere £18 in this current economic climate. Pre-shrunk cotton. It's so soft and it lasts so long. These are not vinyl prints, these are screen prints. So yeah, really, we just break even on this because we just don't want to make any money off you for the time being. But as soon as we hit big time, we're both going to be obviously, trying to hang out with Jeff Bezos. And the only way we can do that is by selling you some overpriced merch and exploiting you. So yeah, please go and rate us 5 stars. Please download the pod. Please listen to the pod. Was there anything else? What else do I normally say, John? Anything else around that?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, cool. Right, let's get into it then. This is the Odyssey. This is the Odyssey, not to be confused with the other films I've been posting on my page that are also called the Odyssey. This is Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, Homer's Odyssey from 2026.
Who's looking after your wife and son?
Do you see?
My dad is coming home. Bringing vengeance.
Bringing it all.
A face, a fleet, a war, a man, a thought. That's a way worse version that's in the film, but my God, let's get into it.
Yeah. Let's get into it. We decided to book the tickets a little bit too late. So we were only going to accept IMAX, obviously. Just like we only accept 5 stars.
It wasn't the full IMAX, to clarify, though. It wasn't full
right, okay.
ratio.
So we're going to get into that first, actually, because that's really pissing me off now. So this film was the first ever film to be shot in 70mm IMAX from start to finish. Mm-hmm. Now, for people that don't know, I don't really want to get into it because I think there's so much like
I don't think you need to
hyperbole online. Just Google it. Just Google it.
It's a very, very big film resolution, which basically makes things look incredible. But the problem is, in the UK and in the States, there's actually very few places that you can actually go and see it in its intended format. However, when you say intended, the film itself is kind of like you can watch it in normal cinema where you get what people see on their TV when you have your black bars at the top and bottom. That's like 2:5 aspect ratio. We saw it in an IMAX presentation where it's equivalent to 16:9, which is like if it fills your TV without any black bars. And then the full true IMAX ratio with the full height and width is a square, which is when you go to an IMAX, it's basically a giant square TV like you had in the 90s, but like obviously, ginormous. So we saw it in the IMAX 16:9. It's not called that, but effectively that's what we saw it in.
So just to start off, right, because obviously I'm online more than John is because I'm the person that runs the Instagram page. There you go. If anything bad ever happens, John, you've got it on audio. I'm the person that runs the Instagram page. So basically, I've seen everywhere that like, only 80 cinemas in the entire world can show this in 70mm IMAX. And it's like if you can actually Google the differences between all the IMAX. There's I think there's 1,800 IMAX screens in the world, and they cut off probably like 5% of like what the actual 70mm IMAX cuts off in height. It cuts off a little bit of height. Go on, John. Go on.
I was going to say,
I think it's more like 10.
No. What I was about to say was the width doesn't suffer. It is the height, but the whole point of IMAX is to make you feel immersed within that. And I mean, I think, do you know what? I'm going to disagree with you. I think there is fair criticism saying, why have you filmed a film in a format which is basically only able to be projected in that format? Now, here's my caveat to that. I wondered, why don't you just show the 4:3 aspect ratio at the normal cinema? And it's like, yeah, because we don't want to deal with people at the cinema being like, hey, why is my picture not filling the whole screen? Because they're not, I don't want to say educated enough, but basically it would have to have a message at the start being like saying, hey, this film is intended to look like a square.
And,
like,
and
don't
yeah,
come at me.
And that's the thing, isn't it? The people that are going to see it in IMAX are the people that care, basically. Like, they're the people that are kind of like probably into it a little bit more. They understand that it's been filmed in a specific way. The people that are watching it just in a normal cinema, in a normal screen, would be, I want to say, a more casual viewer. Yeah, a more casual viewer that just wants to go and see the film. And yes, they will have more of the image cut off. I just don't see, like, people have been calling it anti-art and all sorts. And I'm like, this is the opposite of anti-art. Like, this is art from start to finish in terms of how this has been crafted. So like meticulously throughout, like, and I'm talking the sets, I'm talking every single thing. But like, I think that I'm just not arsed. Like, I'm massive into I want to see things perfectly how it's intended. And on my TV, my LG, I make sure it's in filmmaker mode because I want to watch it how the director intended it. But like, when we're talking about like not much cut off at all, like, I just can't say that I'm that arsed. Like, what's more important for me is that this is like, I don't want to say it's reviving cinemas, but it obviously has.
I can tell you now that we went to see it on opening weekend. I've just booked to see it again this week, Wednesday, nearly 2 weeks later, and it was still essentially fully booked to get any decent seats near the middle. And I honestly, I booked it a week before, so it is because
it's booked for 2 months. It's 2 months. So it's
a 15 rated as well. It's not even like a 12. It's a 15.
It's 15, yeah. The BFI IMAX in London, the biggest screen in the entire UK, that is sold out for the next 2 months. There's three, just in case anyone wanted to know, there's 3 screens in the UK. There's one in Manchester, there's one in London Waterloo, and then there's another one in the BFI. But it's such a non-issue, like, in terms of the difference between actual IMAX and the 70mm IMAX. Like, I can't tell you how much I don't care, and I do care about these things. I'm like, it just don't matter that much.
Oh,
Has he cut off his story? Has he cut off his little feather, like, on his hat? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, no, who cares?
I do,
so
to be honest.
You do, okay, and that's fine.
I'll be honest.
I'm glad you are.
I genuinely do, and I'll tell you why. I just feel like, for me, I think IMAX has a thing where you can't display that ratio unless you're IMAX certified. I think that's why they've not let general theatres do it in Square. And I think, maybe, Nolan can say,
right.
It's a bit like, there's TV shows filmed in the 90s, like X-Files, which were 4:3, but they always said, we've left it so it can be 16:9, like, we framed it so we can crop in and it still makes sense. But the truth is, it never fully works. Anyway, let's get out the weeds here, because this is a whole other thing.
Well, no, because can I just the only one thing I will say is that I also think a big part of that rhetoric is off the back of people being like so pissed off and upset, like, and we're talking about like morons here. And if there's any of you that listen to the pod, I apologize, but it's just ridiculous. The people that are like, oh, it's not true to, they're wearing weird armor and there's black people in it and there's brown people in it. And it's like, if no one was saying that online, I genuinely would not have noticed. Like, I would not have batted an eyelid, because people are making out like that it's this like huge thing, like, and it's like they would never have had non-white people in it, like, and then
Elon
like,
Musk is the big
exactly
perpetrator of this at the moment. But anyway,
they're referencing Troy. It's like, oh yes, Brad Pitt, blonde hair, blue eyes, perfect. It's like, I can't tell you again. Like, I just don't care. Like, I would never have noticed it in a million years. And that's another thing that where people are, I think they're jumping on that bandwagon for, like, that's why they're like, oh yeah, it's anti-art. But anyway, I
also feel like I just miss film criticism, like the irony of being a person on a podcast doing this, but like before online, because the truth is it does form opinions before you even.
We're trying to do it properly though.
But
we're trying, and that's probably why we're not the biggest podcast in the world, because we're trying to tell the truth and we're trying to do things properly and not get involved in all the crap. Anyway, John, tell us about the Odyssey, mate. You've been reading it, so what's it about?
Very simply, there is a man named Odysseus, and back home, he has his lovely wife Penelope, played by Anne Hathaway, and he has a son. His son is played by Tom Holland, and I'm going to butcher this name, Telemachus.
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 Yeah, I'd go with Telemachus.
I hate the fact when we went to cinema, there was this amazing kind of learning all the names the way they're supposed to be said, and it's been 2 weeks, and now they've all left my brain. Agamemnon is the one that I always struggled with saying before, but there we go. Anyway, but effectively,
It's mad that you've got it wrong, considering you're Himeros, the god of sexual longing.
Brilliant. So effectively, it's about the long journey home. It's another film about Matt Damon trying to find his way home, but a journey which should take him a matter of weeks takes 10 years because lots of bad things fall upon him and his crew because of what they do and don't do. Now, the original, this is where it gets complicated, is like a poem that was and a story that was passed down generation after generation after generation, and then it was eventually written down. So when people say it doesn't follow this, there's so many versions and tales of it, and there's, I think the one Nolan got into was the feminist modern interpretation that he's covered off. I've read the Stephen Fry. It's like a modernization of it to make it easier. Now, this film starts with Christopher Nolan's got the card up basically saying like, this is a world where supposedly magic exists, or do you know what I mean? Like, it clarifies quite early on.
Love
like,
it. Give me more, you know?
But it makes you question immediately, does it or doesn't it? Like, is it spiritual or not? And effectively, the key film theme, and Nolan distilled this down, was like Zeus's law, which is called something else, and I apologize, I can't remember the actual name of it, but basically the idea was, if someone's welcomed into your home, you offer them hospitality because it could be a god in disguise. And a big thing in a lot of the Greek stories is the Greek gods came down and they were in disguise as so-and-so, and then they were mistreated, so then they put the wrath upon whoever. So we start with Travis Scott doing his, I joked earlier, a king, a war, a trick. Sorry, a face, a fleet, a war, a man, a thought, a trick. And the idea is, throughout the film, is that this trick at Troy is like the start of the downfall of society, and like when things went wrong. Because prior to that, things were okay. Like, there was honor, there was respect, and there was whatever else. And like, Troy was a war which I think they were at the beach between 5 to 10 years. I can't remember the exact time. So Agamemnon's brother was with Helen of let's get this right, with Helen, who went off to Troy with the Prince of Troy, and because of that, the film doesn't really center on this, but that was like the reason for the war. And it took many years to, like, Troy was known for having these incredible walls that were impenetrable, so the only way to get in, they tried to lure them out with multiple ways, but they couldn't do it. And then one day, Odysseus, Matt Damon, came up with the idea of, we're going to build them a gift, and we're all going to hide inside said gift, and then they're going to bring us in their walls, and then we're going to sneak up, and then we're going to completely defile and ransack the place, and i.e. the end of civilization as we know it, because it's using a gift for the gods as a trick. So it's blasphemous, essentially, which leads to the downfall on the journey back of all things that go on around that. So that's kind of classic Christopher Nolan. That's plot strand A, and like time-wise, what's happening is like the Trojan War, the journey, and then you've also got in current day, as in, well, I say current day, as in like 10 years after the Trojan War, you've got Penelope still waiting for Odysseus to come home, and suitors are waiting there, and they are taking the mickey of Zeus's law because they're like, well, we can just stay here and no one kicks out. They're getting drunk on Odysseus's wine, etc. They don't respect his son, and they don't think he can rule. So that's kind of like the plot. Can Odysseus get back before his beloved has to marry elsewhere to keep everything in order, effectively? And yeah, that's a very sweeping generalization of the story.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, if anyone is interested in what happens before the Odyssey, fantastic accompaniment would be to watch 2004 Troy, Director's Cut is getting its first ever 4K release on the 18th of August from Arrow Video. Yeah, 3-disc set. So you get the theatrical cut, director's cut, and yeah, it's I'm well excited for that. By the way,
Troy is a very different vibe. Troy is very much like a mid-2000s Hollywood being like, look what we can do with CG and real people in terms of we're going to make our own grand epic. And it's around the time Lord of the Rings have been successful. It's like, look what we can do now. The Odyssey is not that. It's a different vibe. Odyssey is really like a journey and a struggle of one man and his merry band and how that goes down. A few things I want to note, because we talked briefly about the fact we've read some of the, I say original literature, there's so many versions, but everyone has an idea of Homer's Odyssey and what the story of it is. But what I would say is the gods play a very small part in this version. They're referenced in dialogue, but they're not really seen or portrayed as much as in the Stephen Fry version I've read. They have a lot more active involvement with what's happening as it goes, but it does get quite complicated. There's a lot of them. There's a lot happening. So if you're trying to reduce the focus and keep the characters down, I understand that. I won't get too nitty gritty, but there are some differences. There are some parts that are slimmed down and other parts that are focused on. But it's interesting what the takeaway of this was. So like, everyone knows there's the, you've got the Cyclops, you've got certain like monsters you're going to see along the way, but it doesn't really delve into the backstory behind them all. And it'd be very difficult to. The film would be like 5 hours long if you even tried to do that, because it's so complicated. I think,
this was one of my criticisms with it.
Go with it, yeah.
So I mean, I think it would be pretty good at this point to take a question, because it fits perfectly in with what I was going to say. But yeah, we've had a question from Anna VD. She writes in, thank you very much for your question, and she says, "Hi guys, I wanted to send a question in for the Odyssey episode. I found the film so thematically similar to Oppenheimer. I wondered if you guys feel the same, and what are your thoughts?" So I think to begin, the one thing I said as soon as we walked out, so me and John watched it, we were right over on the left-hand side because there was no seats. I think
the only thing was there were seats that no one came to sit next to, which were close to the centre, and the guy who sat next to us didn't move the entire film. It was like, come on. But anyway, carry
on. And one thing I said was that I didn't really enjoy probably the first hour that much, because I felt like it done the Oppenheimer thing of when it basically feels like a why is the word escaped me now?
Montage.
Thank you very much. It basically feels like a montage, in that it's got this constant score in the background throughout the entire film, really. But there's this constant score in the background. I also don't know whether that's to kind of stimulate everyone's brain rot. But you've got that in the background, and then it's like we've got all these set pieces. So we've got the Trojan horse. We go to see the Cyclops. We've got the giant warriors, and then it keeps flashing in between that and this thing. But we're talking like 10-minute sequences. And I just felt like almost like an anthology, and that was my complaint. I was like, this is not gripping me. Like, arguably the bits that would be the most exciting on paper, giant warriors, Cyclops, Trojan horse, which was fantastic, by the way. I found I was like, this feels like really like dragging, almost like plodding. But go, John, devil's advocate.
So after that, I got home, didn't I? And I sent you the chapters. So I've got another book, which is like the original translation of the Odyssey, which is, my God, it's way more in depth than I can't. I tried to read about a chapter of it, and it would just put me to sleep. So I couldn't get on with it. Anyway, and that it is chaptered the way you're discussing, like it is. Yeah. And Nolan's done his classic, which is, look, the thing I felt about with this, because my dad said to me, like, did you enjoy it? I was like, I did enjoy it, but if all the things that normally annoy me or maybe frustrate me with Nolan are still present here, which is I've got my first hour where I'm going to throw a load of stuff at the wall, and you're not going to know the context of any of it for the next 2 hours, like basically till you won't get the payoff until the next 2 hours. Now, that's fine when it lands, but when it doesn't land, it can be very frustrating. Now, luckily, it landed in Oppenheimer, didn't it? I felt like it was.
It does, yeah.
And like, let's get that link here to the question, which is, Oppenheimer is what have I done by creating this? I have opened the Pandora's box of, like, you can't close it. It's open now, and nuclear war is upon us all, because at some point someone crazy is going to do X, Y, Z. And this is the same idea, which is by tricking and defying defiling whatever you want to say, the gods.
Yep.
By breaking Zeus's law, we have opened Pandora's box of acceptable behaviour. And throughout the film, Penelope and her son are talking about the seamen who, you know, if you heard about the men from the sea and what they've been doing, and they sound like these terrible people, then you work out quite quickly that's Odysseus and his men on their journey home. They are the sea people they're going through, and they're not listening to the gods. The reason all these terrible things are happening to them is because they don't sacrifice the wrong place. They don't, excuse me, they don't respect the gods in the way in which they've been
The dead
brought
as well.
up to do. They don't respect the dead. So that's why things pan out the way they do. Excuse me, which leads to the situation they're in. In terms of
It's both like, if we're going to take it basic, it's like it both follows just a guy who is, it's basically Odysseus' story, isn't it? Exactly like Oppenheimer's, and the consequences, and I guess almost like I wouldn't say Oppenheimer had like PTSD, but he kind of did.
I don't know. I think he did,
and so does Odysseus. I reckon he's kind of fighting with that, like that mental kind of thing, that what he's coming to terms with what he's done.
Because the other thing that this film does, which I feel like Oppenheimer did better, was the going through the 3 time periods. So Oppenheimer had the final sequence of the film at the start, if I remember rightly. Then you had the time zone from like a trial. Then you had a time zone from it happening and him actually making it. And there was another one I can't fully remember. And it was hopping around. In this, you've got let's say, I keep saying current day, but just for ease, that's like the most recent timeline is Penelope trying to not get married to the suitors and waiting for Odysseus, which we know is 10 years after his event, since they started to go back. Then you've got basically watching Odysseus' journey back kind of in time of that, leading from the Trojan War to then. And then you've got a third one, which is, let's say the name right and not screw this up, which is Why Can't I See Her? It's Calypso, isn't it? For
Calypso.
I can't remember her name. Charlize Theron.
Charlize Theron, yeah. Thank you.
And that's the other time period, but we're trying to work out when that is. But we can see he's grayer, he's got the bigger beard, so a bit like in Oppenheimer, you're looking at like the facial hair and like the hair colour to know like where you're at. So about that, and I want to get into this. Like, there's lots of criticism about the female characters, which Christopher Nolan's left out, and there is a fair criticism of in Christopher Nolan films they very rarely pass
100%. Like he always a woman is almost always used as a plot device. Like almost always.
They're not particularly well represented in any of his films, to be completely honest. And I know he takes issue with that, I think, when he's challenged on it. But like, I mean, the most recent films very very much the same, and this follows that trend. But what I would say is Greek mythology, when you read mythos by I keep referencing the Stephen Fry ones because that's my in. I can't pretend to know everything.
They're also the most accessible for a lot of people. So
there's mythos, there's heroes, and there's Troy, and then there's the Odyssey. And of those, so much of it is sex and violence. Like, basically, it's just like a lot of it is the gods saw so and so and they were so beautiful they couldn't resist, so they pretended to be a bird, and then the woman liked the bird, so then they actually turned into so and so, and then they had sex with them. And like, honestly, it's so much like this, like all the time. It's crazy, and it's like the gods were so lustful, and like the gods are actually really jealous of humanity on the basis of like the humans can die, so they feel things more vigorously, for lack of a better word, so they want to be like them despite the fact they can live forever. This is not even remotely thought about or touched upon in Nolan's adaptation, but like that's a big deal in when you're reading these things. But the reason he stays with Calypso for so long is because he's basically drugged to stay with her, and he's high on, like, he can't remember where home is. He can't remember his wife, but he's also basically with I think they're described as nymphs in like Greek mythology terms, and basically she sleeps with him all the time. So he's got pure pleasure. So he's not leaving because he's got pure pleasure on his doorstep. So he's not going anywhere. And this film goes nowhere near that. Like, Charlie's, I'm not saying I need sex scenes every 5 minutes. What I'm saying is it's lust and sex are a massive part of Greek mythology, and it's like not in this at all. Like even the setup of Choi is that it's being lustful over another person's wife, literally stealing her. A face that was so beautiful it led to a war which was like 10 years long or whatever it is, and then the journey back. And then this film shies away from it. It's just really, really strange.
I think that with the Calypso thing, because she's given him the lotus flower, so and that
which
was
is
maybe,
also different to
exactly
where it appears in
it
the
was.
book. But I'm not going to be that person. But like that's a plot thing to kind of thin it out and make it kind of streamline it.
Yeah, and so when I was kind of like playing devil's advocate with myself, and I was like, oh, it just feels like a montage, but like maybe it could be a dream. So like maybe that's him just like recounting it all, and like that's why it's so like fragmented. But I think it's a reach, you know. Like it's not. If someone was to say that to me, I'm like, I don't believe you. Yes, it's pure copium. That's exactly what it is. So it's
Excuse me.
it's I don't know.
But like we're sounding negative on it, but I think it's just fair to address criticisms in terms of what his take on it is exactly what you know when Nolan did the Batman trilogy, you know.
Yeah.
He takes the bits he likes, which is realistic, down and gritty, and basically got rid of all the fantastical elements
And adds
really.
time.
Yeah, but essentially got rid of all the fantastical elements and went, this is kind of what I'm focused on. And this film is this. Like, it's basically like, imagine Greek mythology, but without any of the stuff with the gods. It feels a bit like that. So it's like...
imagine Greek mythology without all the exciting stuff.
It feels a bit like, you know... And my biggest criticism of it is, I'm aware this isn't Jason and the Argonauts. I'm aware this is not Sinbad and the Voyage of the Seven Seas. But there is... and it's not Troy 2004. But
and it's not Clash of the Titans.
But there's no wonder... And this sounds really, really weird, but like...
Not at all.
There's no level of... And I don't know if this is a me problem, if it's... There's no wonder because they're used to it, this is the world they're in. Or is it just known to be miserable? Or the other read on this film, which I think is what it's supposed to be, is the Cyclops isn't real, the giants aren't real, or each scenario is basically a metaphor of terrible things that the crew and the people have done, and it's their way of dealing with it. So the example that was given to me was Godzilla, the creation of Godzilla, and the art form of it is the Japanese reaction to dealing with what happened at Hiroshima, and how like they processed that through media was to create a creature, and that trauma was dealt with in like a partly it through like an artistic construct. And they're saying like this film has that with, oh, there was this Cyclops. It's like, if you think about it, when they go to the Cyclops, he's got loads of sheep and he makes cheese. Like, do you really think like the giant Cyclops is only eating cheese and whatever? Like, it makes more sense. That could be a shepherd who was there and they were desperate and they raised it and they killed him because they've got a bit mad and boat crazy, stir crazy.
Absolutely.
And then you've got like, okay, the giants, like, were they actually giants, or was it just an army of people who were like, these people from the sea keep coming to land and we've heard about them, we've fended them off, and they probably felt giant because they were so hungry by this point. They've not fed for like a long period. I'm forgetting ones now, but basically each thing is like, I don't want to say it wrong. Is it Circe or Cersei? But
Cersei.
So her sequence is, she says, these men are pigs, and there's a sequence where she transforms them into like what she sees them as, because the truth is they had done horrific things like pigs in Troy. They had raped, pillaged and murdered and all the rest of it. So she's like, I'm showing you for what they are. And again, in Greek mythology, there's more to that, which is she was attacked and she's had these things happen to her. So she's enacting on them like what's happened to her. So
yeah,
as I say, all these things link to kind of what
a
it could be,
grounded version.
And also with that character, she's also more like Calypso in the Greek books, which is like she's also a beautiful woman that lures Odysseus to stay there for a long period of time, like tricks him into staying there as well. So I'm no expert, and I don't want someone to come here and be like, I want a full breakdown of like what's different from the books.
That's not what this pod is. So,
I can't give you that. But what I will say is, it's just interesting the almost like sexless nature of characters in it, which in the novel, or it's not really a novel, the story, the original tale, whatever you want to call it, that aspect is completely devoid and missing from this. When it's such a key integral part of it, seems strange to me.
Yeah.
Because also, like, I like old like certain Shakespearean things. And I remember when I was reading Mythos, basically realizing that Shakespeare was basically just nicking loads of the Greek mythology and just rebranding and renaming. And the more you read of it, the more you were like, okay, right, there's about like 4 stories traits here that are just being repeated each time. But yeah.
Has like well, I'm just thinking, listening to you talk, riveting, by the way. It sounds like I'm being sarcastic. Like, has Nolan given us socks for Christmas? You know what? Like, Nolan might have given us the best, nicest premium pair of socks for Christmas, right? Perfectly knitted with so much care. They're going to keep my feet warm. They're gonna last a long time. You know, they're fantastic socks. But I probably would have preferred like a home like pint pourer, beer maker thing.
Do you know what's even fits that even more? We left the cinema and we said, for as good as this all is, it's far more enjoyable watching Troy.
And
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's and like I'm aware before someone comes at me saying like the gods aren't present in Troy, which they're not, and that's absolutely fair as well. Like they're not, and that part's missing. But it got kind of there's parts of it that were better in terms of like the nature of society around that time and like how it represents the lustful nature of people and things. I don't know. It just has more of that side to it. But yeah, anyway, go on.
Let's tell you what we'll do, because it sounds like we're being super negative, but we're just giving you a balanced view, and we want to end you on a high. And we're not finished yet. We've got a lot to talk about.
To clarify, I'd still think it's a 9 out of 10. Like,
I don't
what I mean.
It's not. Yeah, and so in terms of filmmaking, yeah, it's as high, it's as close as it gets. And yeah, for me, I thought it was like an 8.5. There was times I didn't enjoy it that much, but I think for Nolan, you simply it's an absolute joy. Like we're obviously criticizing these things and saying it's like it's a sanitized version, and I think that with Nolan, like what you can rely on, like that it's a joy. Like it's pure art from start to finish. The craft of it all, and when I was talking earlier on about like this CGI blood and stuff like that, it's £250 million budget, and every single penny of it's there. Like they've literally built a 35-foot tall Trojan horse and buried it in sand.
Yeah, and actually pulled it over the course of a day and filmed them pulling it over the course of the day. And there's so many things where it's like, hey, there's this thing in the water. How do we get that? And it's like. I hate when people say Nolan doesn't use CGI. He does, but he said from very early on, I use it as a tool to augment things that already exist, which is how I feel about AI, by the way. I have no issue with people using AI. Yeah,
but they don't.
No issue with people augmenting visuals or things they make with it, but I don't like it when it's an outright created from the slot. But anyway,
yeah, created from. It's got that same font, that rough font. Whenever you get a picture made from AI.
Anyway, so when they're at sea, there's a whirlpool. They've got jet skis, and the jet skis go around and make a whirlpool, and then they film it, and you get all the live reaction of the boat reacting to it. You get the plate of the sea acting a certain way, and all the rest of it. So you get all these wonderful things, and it sounds stupid, but it feels like a real film, because we joked when we talked about Apex.
You're absolutely right.
So many films that just don't feel real now because of cost cutting or because of like the way they're shot. And I always joke like. This is all, unfortunately, because of George Lucas's revolutionizing technique from Attack of the Clones onwards and the Marvel films that followed and all the rest of it. Like, that is why these films are the way they are. So this is why people, I think, probably take pay cuts to go on a Nolan film, because they're just like, I'm going to be there on a real set and there's going to be, a proper location and whatever else. And there's something I didn't realize, like you see the exteriors of certain buildings and what have you. Yeah. The logistics behind making them so they're able to operate a film there, to get the food crews up there and all the rest of it. Like there's all that stuff that you don't think about with film budgets, and the logistics behind actually being there.
That's the point. I think I said to you, like Mortal Kombat 2, the new one. There's one actual set in that entire film. And it's basically what people do. Same with AI now. Like this is what everyone does at work now, and it's really boring. Is they get it to completely replace things rather to enhance it. So if you and me were sitting there, be like, oh yeah, like but we need a statue of like a guy chasing them, and then you're like, yeah, okay, cool, yeah. So well, we've got 2 options really. Should we build it, or should we go on? In fact, we've got 3 options. We can build one. We can go to location and find something that looks like it, or I can just type this prompt in and just do it that way. Like, and it's like 9 times out of 10, that's what everyone's doing now, because it's like everyone's just using it as a cost cutting, lack of imagination. We're doing this easy. I don't think films should be easy to make. Like, and so if we are doing this, and if we're kind of just fine to use tech to your advantage, and actually it's probably like, for smaller budget films, it's probably an absolutely incredible tool. But when we're shouting out like stuff like Mortal Kombat 2, which I did enjoy, by the way, but visually it's absolutely disgusting. We're like, oh yeah, but it'll make loads of money because it's got Mortal Kombat attached to it. Like, we're not doing it anymore because we want to do it, or because it's like filmmaking should be hard. Art is hard, and that's why I don't do it, because I've got no skill. That's why I don't make films, because I can't. Like, it's not. Well, I could probably make a really shit one. But that's the way it is now. It's like, what can we do? Not what can we.
And that's why people pay and book out Nolan films for weeks on end, on the basis of
exactly.
It's all been as much as possible done for real. And when I say for real, it's not
so
for
exciting.
For real, but it's just to see the picture value on. However, another criticism on the IMAX aspect of it, of the whole of the film, there's some things I really liked, which was the integration of the sound design and the score. I think that's something Nolan's got down at the moment.
Yeah.
And like every time Agamemnon's on the screen in his armor, it's like when Darth Vader appears in the first Star Wars, and like there's a dramatic like rumble of the bass when he turns up, and you feel his presence and power, and like it's just like really, really amazing. But just yeah, it's, don't know where I was going with that. I've completely lost my train of thought. Nolan score. I mean,
you said about the sound, yeah.
Yeah, but you were also saying like you got annoyed with the montage thing. That I do feel like he has got to a point where there's constant music going on, and I think it's to keep attention. Apart from the Cyclops sequence.
Well, let's talk about the Cyclops sequence, and then I've got another fantastic question. We've had some really good questions. I'm loving it.
So the Cyclops sequence, you've got the first bit of real quiet, haven't you? They're going in there, and then I didn't hear this the first time, but the Cyclops says, "Poseidon, why do you not help me?" or something like that.
Poseidon's his dad.
Yes, and then basically it's the sound design is pretty much there's no music initially, is there? There's quite a lot. That's quite a large section with no music.
I wouldn't like to go on record and say that, but probably if there isn't anything, it'd be like ambient kind of sounds in the background, because I felt like there was just ambient stuff going on like throughout the entire first hour and a half or something. I don't know.
I think I felt that in.
It's like the
Oppenheimer,
like that kind of like stuff.
There's a lot of that.
There is loads of it. Yeah,
Fincher does quite a lot of that.
I like it. By the way,
Trent Reznor and
really like
Ross kind of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, what I was going to say on the IMAX front. Sorry, we didn't go on to this. One thing that I thought: how many screen grabs of this film, or like amazing frames, do you think exist? Considering it's shot in IMAX, how many like wallpaper moments do you think there are of this film? Compared to, I don't know. James
Give me
disappeared.
No, I'm here. I was listening. I was sorry. I was turning up my ISO because we were lacking light. But yeah, sorry. How many wallpaper moments?
I don't think there's that many, considering the aspect ratio and what they've shot. I don't think there are that many genuinely jaw-dropping moments of cinematography. And that might be really controversial, but like,
I think it might be, yeah.
I don't think, for like visual frames that I want to get a print of, I don't know how many there are in this film, considering it's more like the movement within it. And there are films like that, like Miami Vice was shot digitally back in the early 2000s, and it's a film where people like the cinematography looks crap when you see a picture of it on a JPEG, but if you watch it within how it's in movement, it works a lot better, and I feel like the Odyssey is that. But in terms of like standout frames, I can think of the one with the dolphin. That's a shot which has stuck with me.
The dolphin. So a good little fun fact there. The dolphin was, it was not CGI or anything. It just happened to happen at the time.
That's what happens when you go film a real place. And then also
crazy, isn't it, mate?
It's funny that. And then happy accidents. And then also when they are sailing off into the sunset, quite literally, that stuck with me as like a visual thing. But I don't know how many of the shots really struck with me. maybe the initial shot of the horse on the beach from the original trailer in the water. I'm just saying, for the amount of money that's cost and like the way it's filmed and whatever else, I find that interesting.
It's not Tak Fujimoto on the set of Terrence Malick's Badlands, that's for sure. It's I thought for me, I mean, I guess maybe it's more of like I think a lot of it's scale, isn't it? So like obviously in that regard, like we're there's obviously some vistas and there's some sunsets and stuff. But I wouldn't say particularly the cinematography. I was thinking more about the score afterwards. I was thinking more about the performances afterwards. And I was thinking more about the nature of the story. But I guess I wasn't really. I'd have to, for me to kind of give a really honest answer, I'd have to watch it again. But I remember I do think that much like I praise Villeneuve for the scale, the sense of scale, he's done really well. Like the Cyclops was obviously real animatronics. Played by Bill Irwin, and then obviously the Giant Warriors as well. He got people that were 7 foot tall in and used like obviously false perspective to like exaggerate how big they were. I think it's more so those kind of things that stuck out, and I guess the ship scenes. I guess in terms of the cinematography, the long ship scenes, they were quite they were really
fair,
probably exciting for me.
I just feel like Denis Villeneuve of the two of them has a better eye for like those standout shots or frames. Even Rian Johnson on Last Jedi, I mean, controversial, but like it's one of the best looking sci-fi films. And like this isn't sci-fi, but kind of like is. It isn't. I do want to touch on a few things because I know we're hopping all over the place with this, but performance-wise, I felt at the time Tom Holland was being drowned out by everything going on around him. I felt like Robert Pattinson's brilliant.
He's unbelievable. Yeah,
Anne Hathaway's incredible. Matt Damon's probably best performance for me, or I mean that's a bold claim.
It's hard. Have you seen The Departed?
Yeah. And then I felt like he stuck out to me, as in Tom Holland felt like he was
miscast. Or drowned.
I just felt like he was acting and reciting lines while every other person in it, and I don't think I'm the only person to have said this, like everyone else is in the moment, and I didn't always feel like he was. I think he's a brilliant Spider-Man, but I think his range personally is quite limited, and like that might be unfair. Maybe it's just the caliber of actors around him.
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
I found it hard when I was watching this, but then I also thought he's a prince, he's young. I can kind of go with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can go with it. It's difficult for me because I really like Tom Holland, but
you know what? So maybe I didn't love him in this, and I think that he probably was one of the weaker actors, which makes me feel a bit. That's not very nice, but it's how I felt. David Ellis writes in, avid listener of the show. I'm going to say avid. Sorry, I'm sorry if you do listen and it's not avid and you listen, I guess casually. Yeah. So yeah, that's fine. He says American accents versus. So this is a good question. American accents versus British accents in historical epics. What do you prefer and why?
I wish Tom Holland was doing his English accent because I think it would have been better.
100%. So what's interesting about this? What's interesting about this is you've got like two central performances: Robert Pattinson, Tom Holland, both English actors, speaking in American accents. And also, I wanna bolt on something else to your question, David, and I want to bolt on the thought about when we start saying, "But Mom, what are we doing, Mom?" Like, I want to bolt on that as well. So obviously he's gone a bit Nolan's gone contemporary with it, and he's like, yeah, we're just going to get them speaking American, and we're also going to get them speaking kind of like, not like, what's the word, John?
Not Shakespearean dialogue or whatever you want to call it, but
yeah. And I actually think, so for me, obviously I prefer English. I am English, so I'm obviously biased, but it feels more traditional. It feels more
Spartacus and Co. When it's English is kind of where your brain goes to. But do you know what? At least they commit to one, because I remember watching. I think it's Valkyrie.
Yeah,
which is Brett Ratner.
I've not seen that.
Bryan Singer, sorry. Anyway, also not good. But in terms of like that film is frustrating on the basis of some are doing American, some are doing British, some are doing German accents, and they're all
Right.
supposed to be Germans, and your brain's just going, no, this does not register for me. Like, just, it's either you're all English or you're all American. And at least for this, I went, you're all doing American, because
I guess.
Matt Damon
John
probably was like, fine, go on.
Yeah, John Leguizamo, who I love, by the way.
He's
playing-
incredible.
He's amazing, right?
The pig farmer.
He's basically doing his Bronx, like, Puerto Rican accent, like, which is... So I think that if I had to choose, I'd choose British, because I think it sounds more authentic to the time period. But I don't know whether that might just be because I've grown up as in UK, I might just be completely biased. And then in terms of the, like, saying, like, I would prefer it if they dialed down the mom and was like, but mother, no, there's a mother.
But maybe that's why they probably didn't. I was going to say what I do love, and I've seen an interview with Nolan talk about this, like Travis Scott. I mean, we keep going back to that intro, about the trick and whatever else. His voice is incredible. Like hearing him be the bard and just setting the story for the night for when they're getting, or before they.
Oh,
all
you
get
never
drunk.
have a black bard in those days, John. Though what's going on.
Whatever. But Nolan talks about the fact that like he's like, rap is a form of storytelling that's passed down generations, so he loved the idea of that, and I was like, that's really cool, and I really like that. But yeah, back on Tom Holland, I just felt like around the royalty that is around him in acting credentials, I felt like he stuck out to me, and I almost felt like it was a bit of this is our lives, Alice. Our lives in Harry
This is
Styles.
our lives, Harry Styles.
In No Trouble, Darling, or whatever it was. Don't worry,
darling. This is our lives.
There was a few bits like that, and I thought, look, we're on that edge, aren't we?
Do you know what it's like?
Yeah,
it's like when you've got like a really good football player in a mid-table team, and then he goes into he gets signed for Barcelona, and he just gets he's playing alongside Messi, and it's like, oh, actually, I'm pretty.
There's levels to everything, and
I'm joking, by the way. Look, Tom Holland could buy and sell me, I'm completely and
also
I like
he
him.
will carry that Spider-Man film. And it will be great, but I think that's a very different style to this. This is more like a straight up drama, and I don't.
I'm
feel
just
like
going
I've
to put it
seen
out
him
there
do
though.
those. Go on.
And I'm sorry, but in No Way Home, when all three Spider-Men are on screen again, we're talking Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, and it's like, well, you could be the worst actually out of those three. Anyway,
we haven't talked about. We need to talk about, which is Zendaya is the only god we see on screen, but it's like, are we seeing the god or are we seeing the representation of? So
is he imagining it?
So when Troy is attacked and ransacked, Odysseus finds the temple of Athena and basically beheads. We don't know from seeing it from multiple viewpoints if he beheads a statue of Athena, which is defiling the gods, which I'm guessing he wouldn't have done, or if he beheads a girl who looks like Zendaya in the temple of Athena, and that's why he then sees his representation of Athena guiding him throughout as Zendaya. But Zendaya has very little to say, but she's an incredible actress, and of that relationship, it must be very difficult going home knowing how much better she is at the job. Because, honestly, she carries
lessons.
Honestly, her fate, it staggers my mind. It blows my mind. Sorry, that she's the same actress from Euphoria, because the way she holds herself, and I know it's called acting, by the way, before someone comes at me, but she's so different in everything she's in. She doesn't even look the same. Just the way she portrays herself, it's incredible. Her, I've forgotten the character's name in June, but it's always so different. It just blows my mind how much range she has. And I am a sucker for it, and I'm happy to be. But it's I think she has a major role in the film without having lots to say. It's more like she's a visual motif throughout the film that keeps coming back to be here's guilt, here's more guilt, and that doesn't really come full circle to the end of when we see what happened in that temple. And it's still classic Nolan. We're not fully sure what happened, and it's left to interpretation. And I think that's a fair Nolan criticism again. When we left and we joked saying like it's a montage for 3 hours, and that's kind of his style now. There is a fair criticism, which is, you know, I used to get really annoyed with people saying Nolan has to do things with time, and it's like, but he genuinely kind of does. Like he can't help himself. Sorry, go on.
Patch writes in, and he says, blah blah blah. Oh, that was a good segue. What other directors became victims of their own success? So I think that like what Patch is getting at is, I guess, well, I'm gonna tell Patch what I think he's getting at is what you've just said, John. Is that he's got this style now, and he's almost developing this style where the ending always comes. Like it all ties up into a nice, neat little bow, and it's like, oh yeah, but that was there and that was there, and oh, can't believe you didn't notice that. And it's almost
watch it
like,
a second time, it's even better because it all links back up and da, da, da.
Yeah, and so like he's getting to this stage where, I think that he feels like he has to do these things. So like I'm hoping this montage thing is just he's done it in 2 films, but it just might be a style he's developing.
I'd love to see like a straight A to B film with no
like
no non-linear storytelling. Show me, as mad as it sounds, because to actually successfully achieve, by the way, a non-linear story is actually very, very difficult to do, which is why it always blows everyone's mind when they watch something like Pulp Fiction and it's executed so perfectly.
Yeah.
So Nolan's proven he can do that, but we don't need that all the time. I feel like the last time we got something like that was probably Batman Begins. Like everything since then has been like a, you know, after that you've got
the
magic film I forgot the name of. You've got Inception, all over the shop. Go on, Prestige. Yeah. Sorry,
the Prestige.
You've got Inception.
I love it. Yeah.
You've got even like Dark Knight is
Dunkirk.
Straight laced throughout. And then you've got Dunkirk, which is jumping around in time. You've got I've already said Inception. You've got Tenet,
Memento.
Which is all about time. No, I'm going. Let's go post Dark Knight, because even Dark Knight Rises has an element of
it does. Yeah.
Well, did he do it? Did he not? And like, did it flash back to this? Is it sideways? Whatever. So it's almost like that was in 2012. Like we get it, and I feel like we don't keep needing that. I kind of wish Nolan got the Bond film. I know Denis Villeneuve's got it, and I'm more than looking forward to seeing what he does because he's brilliant. But Nolan's a massive Bond fan, and like anyone who's watched Inception knows that basically the last third is On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which was his favourite Bond film, or quoted as being one of his favourite Bond films. But I'd love to see him just make a normal linear plot. I want to see a linear plot. Do you know what? With some good representative female characters who actually have something to do, you know, and not just pure plot device or armor. Like it'd be really good to see. And I feel like when we left the cinema, you and I said, if you don't like Nolan's style and substance, this film is not the film to change that. It's all the traits you've got again in another 3-hour film.
What did I say to you? I said like, people have been saying, and by the way, I've stayed away from a lot of what people have said because I like to comment on these pods and kind of develop my own opinion. So it's, and I feel comfortable to do that nowadays. Like I feel like we've been doing it long enough where like I feel confident in what I have to say. But what I said was, people have been saying that this is his most accessible film, which I like.
It's not.
You pissed yourself because it's like, of course it's not. Like,
it's Batman Begins or Dark Knight.
It's probably Dark Knight. Like, is quite simply his most accessible film. But yeah, anyway, so other directors then became victims of their own success. I've got a few on here. I know there's one on here that I think you'll mention.
David Fincher, when they said marketed everything as if it was like for the director of Seven, he was like, but then everyone expects me to do a serial killer film, and I'm not doing a serial killer film.
Yeah, I mean, so I've got, like, I wasn't going to say Fincher, but I've got Ridley on there. I think Ridley had so many like incredible films.
Too many early successes.
Yeah. People were just expecting 10 out of 10s every single time. M. Night Shyamalan. I think M. Night Shyamalan is defo a victim of his own success. Like he came out with Unbreakable, Signs, and what's the other one? He came out with another absolute Sixth Sense. George Lucas.
Like, yeah, I mean, what did he actually direct? He did.
So he did American Graffiti first, which is an absolute,
which was also very successful, by the way.
Cult classic. Yeah.
He'd done THX 1138, which wasn't so successful. Then he'd done Star Wars, which absolutely smashed out of the park, and then basically disappeared until he came to direct The prequels,
Phantom Menace,
which is mental. Which, by the way, he didn't want to do.
We've got another question, and I've got Phantom Menace in there as well, which I'm going to talk about. And the only other ones I've got, when I was thinking of it, are like Tim Burton. I think he was like super popular, and everyone loved him, and his style got really boring for a lot of people, myself included. Like, I'm like, yeah, they all look. He did Batman Returns, he did Edward Scissorhands, like some really good films, and then Wes Anderson, who like. I hate him now, like which is brutal to say. Like, sorry, I don't hate him. I hate his films. I just find him like he gets all these really talented actors to just act wooden, and everything's got to be like straight and facing the front.
But
and it just pisses me off.
It might just be what he like. I don't know.
Style over substance. Well, it's not what I like. So unlucky, Wes. You've got me to contend with as an absolute 100% nobody.
I think another one we're going to say maybe is, and it's fair, is like style over substance getting locked in. Snyder. I feel like he's got a very set
massive.
style. Which
that's a good shout actually.
Like, and people expect certain things. I don't have an issue with it. Like, we've talked very briefly before, I won't get too into it, about auteur theory, and it's like, director has full control over all levels of production, which means that when a film comes out, it's their final cut, and like, it is there as close to their creative and artistic vision at the pinnacle of what it is. And I do think Nolan's probably as close as you're ever going to get to that, because no one's giving him notes, and if they are giving him notes, he's not reading them. And it also helps he doesn't have email, because he doesn't have a phone or whatever else. So he says he only gets printed off emails that are brought to him by his secretaries and PAs and stuff.
Absolute dream.
But anyway, I was just going to say, like, yeah, I feel like the style of this film follows what's been built, but I feel like it's closest to Oppenheimer in its delivery. In like how it's wired into your brain, it's closest to that. And if you didn't like that style of delivery, you won't love this. But at least with this, Oppenheimer was shot in IMAX, and a lot of people question, why have I got a 70mm square of someone's face when most of the film takes place in like a broom cupboard and like a meeting room and thingy. And this film justifies the IMAX spectacle more.
It does, yeah.
Despite the fact I've said I don't think it always fully delivers on that controversially. But yeah,
I was just going to say, can we quickly talk about the end? As in, like, the final, I guess the final hour, we'll quickly just talk about that.
Well,
we'll go into
the return to Ithaca. So finally, Odysseus, after 10 years of sleeping with someone, but not because it's Nolan, we're not showing
terrible time. He's been locked on the island with Charlize Theron. Like, what an awful time he's had.
I did say to James, I said, poor Odysseus and all his struggles being stuck with Charlize Theron on a desert island.
It doesn't sound like he's being punished, does it?
Jeez Louise. Anyway, so he gets back home, and So Agamemnon got home way, way quicker than Odysseus did to his home, but he wasn't welcomed back as a hero. He was killed by his wife because he'd sacrificed his own daughter for fair winds for the journey originally to get to Troy. So Odysseus heard about this and learnt the idea of it makes sense when you go home to not come back as a hero, because so many people are ready to take you down and fight you for your place. So go back as a beggar. And as Jamie said, there's a lot of looking like Mark Hamill at the end of Force Awakens with his grey hoodie and whatever else.
His hood. Well, it wasn't just for that though, was it? It was because he wanted to go back as a beggar to go back in disguise to basically find out what's going on.
And find out who's loyal still. Yeah. Who's loyal to the king.
Which I love. I love that, by the way.
Yeah. So he has a whole conversation with Penelope, but she doesn't realise it's him. But we learn cleverly, and I will give this to Nolan, we know that it's him because his servant works out from a bite on his leg, which she dealt with like 20 years before. That was good foreshadowing. I will, credit where it's due.
I think this bit in its whole sequence could be like some of his strongest filmmaking ever. Like I think the final 40 minutes is absolutely like edge of the seat stuff.
It's a bit taken, he's come back to take his revenge on the fact they've taken his kingdom, so he's going to kill every single one of them, and then he's going to vacate himself from there because he's breaking Zeus's law again. He knows he is, but he knows he needs to go into exile, and he's happy to do it because he's back with his wife. So he's like, I'll happily go into exile with my wife. I'm not bothered. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
So The other criticism, it's a 9 out of 10, but here's another criticism. Nolan, for me, with action, I never fully know what's happening. It's never clear to me. It's not in The Dark Knight. It wasn't in Batman Begins. It wasn't Dark Knight Rises. It kind of was in Tenet, but it was backwards.
I think Tenet's. I think honestly, I think Tenet's like a 4 out of 10. I hate it.
I'd love to rewatch it and see how I feel.
No, I won't. It's. I think. Anyway, sorry.
The end of the film is a very large fight sequence of a large group of basically Odysseus battling through all the different suitors and killing them to the point of when see who kneels at his feet when they realise they can't defeat him and he is the true heir. He is still the king. But it's not always framed in the way I want it to be framed. And I also laughed at the fact Tom Holland has to fight one person and it takes him like forever to get through, and his dad at this point is killed like 20 plus people. But sorry, go on, Joey.
No. I was just that's it, isn't it? It's I think a lot of it's the tense, the intensity of it all, and before the fight, obviously it's that stringing that bow. You know, that's the main. Yeah, boom. Yeah, that's the main thing, isn't it? Stringing that bow. Those little bits there are like fantastic. Like I'm like that is it's almost like that bit is enhanced so much because the first half of it is quite so slow. Like and when I say slow, like crazy stuff happens. Like we didn't speak about Samantha Morton, by the way, who I think is probably plays that's probably the best like part of the. I say best part. That's the best character in the entire film. Like she's unbelievable as the witch. It's almost like a horror film.
But a very different take, again, as we said, of what that character is and
massively.
How they're represented. But anyway,
massively. But yeah, the end of the complete ending sequence, and I guess the John Leguizamo character and him coming to those bits are really good because he has sprinkled them in throughout. The dog as well is and Film Forager writes in for the first time in ages. You're not listening anymore or something. I don't know what's going on. She says that puppy wasn't the same breed as the grown dog, and that's my only gripe. Okay, cool.
It is
yeah,
annoying.
it wasn't. It wasn't the same breed, but yeah. I mean, the Robert Pattinson, his kind of antics during the last fight is. I mean, I don't know if it's supposed to be funny. I'm going to assume it is. But it's hilarious. He's like, "Oh, get the spears!" Like all this kind of. It's like, and what does he say?
He's a coward. Yeah,
he's a coward. Yeah, but he's unbelievable. Like I don't think he can do any wrong. You know, I really don't think he can do any wrong. Like, I love Robert Pattinson.
I saw a post the other day and it said this man's really trying very hard to make you forget he ever did Twilight, and then it posted like, you know, what's the one he did with Zendaya recently? Then it showed The Lighthouse. Then it showed like. The drama, The Lighthouse, it showed him in like basically like all these films where he's just a complete chameleon, essentially. A bit like Gary Oldman back in the day, just he's never the same person whenever he's in things.
He's amazing, yeah. Can we get these beggars out of here? Like that's everyone's memeing that. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, everyone loves that.
But anyway, yeah. Look, we really loved it. We've got one or two questions to end the show, but we really did love it. We really did, and obviously we're going to talk about our criticisms of it because we're not going to sit here and also pretend it's 5 stars, like because it's not. Like, and this is one of the most strangely rated films of his. It's sitting at a 4.4, but I've seen a lot of people. I think that was going to go down over time. I think that's going to probably it'll end up sitting at around probably a 3.9 or a 4. But yeah,
some films are better with a theatrical experience, and sometimes it takes away when they've gone back. So an example of that for me is Gravity. Like as a cinema experience, is incredible.
I love Gravity at home, mate.
I
love Gravity at home.
It loses probably a star on the basis of not feel like I'm in space when I'm watching it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, there's a lot of 4-star ratings put that way. There's a lot of people like giving it 4-star ratings, and I think that at home when people are watching it on their phone, or they're watching it on their laptop, which is genuinely how people watch this stuff nowadays. It's not going to hit the same. But anyway, we've got a question. Why do I keep losing these questions? Right, we've got blah blah blah. Will Nolan hype overshadow any project he works on for the rest of his career? Have we answered that?
Kind
we
of.
Haven't.
No. Would it overshadow? I would say that it brings, and I think we've done this now. If this was directed by anyone other than Christopher Nolan, I think we'd probably be less critical of a lot of aspects of it.
Do you think? Okay.
Yeah, I think
perhaps. Yeah.
I think it is fair to say that he set the bar so high with, I'm going to go back from even, I took interest more, if I'm being brutally honest, from Batman Begins onwards. Dark Knight Rises isn't as good, but Inception, all those films, Interstellar, love Interstellar, all those films set the bar incredibly high, and we also have had enough filmography from him to know what his weaknesses are. And like, I feel like that's the thing, which is every time we see his films, it's a bit like a school report. You wanted to see the progress of, has he reached his target on like improving this element of it? And the truth is he hasn't, but he's doubled down on another part. Like, that's kind of, so yes, we do unfairly judge and criticize them, but he's also the only guy I know who can release a trailer with absolutely nothing in it, and you all just put tickets, because the Odyssey trailer had absolutely nothing in it. Like 4 shots of like a beach, the horse, 2 of the bits, no action, none of the actors displayed, nothing. And we were all like, yeah, IMAX is booked out for the next 2 months. And I think, who else can do that?
No, he's unbelievable, because even Scorsese's not doing that anymore. I think
Tarantino maybe.
Tarantino probably would do that, but that's because he releases films so seldom. And I was going to say, like, obviously the question was, will Nolan hype overshadow any project he works on for the rest of his career? Unless he has a few stinkers, a little bit like Ridley Scott nowadays. So Ridley Scott's tending to the guy where, like, people often say about Ridley Scott, which I really disagree with. He releases an amazing film, then he releases a shot, then he releases an amazing film, and he releases a shot. I'm like, you can't say that. Like, I just don't. I would say most of Ridley Scott's films are better than most directors' films. And a bad Ridley film is still normally quite good. I'd say Tarantino, like, he's a really good example, because these kind of directors that are like held on this like complete pedestal, Tarantino wrote was like halfway through writing The Critic, his 10th film. Like, he was only releasing 10 films, he's writing The Critic, and he scrapped it because it's like the pressure on his shoulders, because he's got such a good track record.
Yeah, he has, but he's also stupid enough to tell everyone he's only making 10 films. If he hadn't ever said anything, there'd be less pressure. So I do feel with him, like, I like Tarantino, but he also pisses me off with some of the stuff around that, which is...
Well, he pisses me off with a lot of the stuff he says as well. Like, he's a bit of a twat nowadays. Like, he's kind of got so big that he's going on interviews and he's slagging the likes of Paul Dano off, saying he's like weak sauce and that. And I'm like, you probably shouldn't do that, because you've got such a big influence that you probably shouldn't be slagging other. It's unprofessional. Like,
I would say what is incredible though, if you look at who Tarantino cast in bit parts in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and now all of them are like A-listers.
Unbelievable.
And that's a level of something you cannot replicate. But anyway, going back to it, yes, that, like, Nolan is held on a higher pedestal because of his success, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It's actually a backhanded compliment, which is, I hold you in such high regard because you show me one of the best action crime cop thrillers ever made, which happened to be a Batman film. And like, ever since then, you have changed the way we view cinema, and you are one of the few names who can draw these people in. So unfortunately, because of that, you are held up on a higher pedestal. Sorry, but like, it's part of it. And I feel like Tenet was the one where, you know, the George Lucas interview, he goes, I think I went a little bit too far in a few too many places. Tenet for me was that. Tenet was when he realised, overindulgent. I've pissed people off here. Like,
sorry, not overindulgent, self-indulgent.
Yeah, I've gone for something which I thought, like, I'm really interested in, and it's too out there. This is too much. And I feel like this film, though, but this film is less of that, but those stylistic things he has of montage and time and tying it up in a bow, all there. And I would say, as Jamie and I said, if you don't like Nolan films, I don't feel like this is the one to persuade you otherwise.
Yeah, and I think you're right.
Sorry.
Well, last question before we tell you what we're doing next episode and we sign off and tell you to buy more t-shirts. Can a huge spotlight lead to unfounded backlash if a movie doesn't deliver 100%?
Yes, 100%.
100%, yeah. Odyssey. I mean, Odyssey to look at us for the Odyssey. Like, we're like, oh, it's not perfect. Every
I
Star
think that
Wars
links
film.
back to the previous question. I think if
It
you.
does, yeah.
The biggest problem of online discourse criticism is, if you read reviews from Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi back in the day, it's really interesting seeing how popular or not popular they were. And then years later, they kind of revised opinion happens, either because other sequels come out and they're not as good, so people uprate what came before, or because people's opinions change over time when you've got the recency bias, and when you're further away from it, actually you're like, oh, this is actually better than I thought. I think like that's a thing. But yeah, I feel like
actually named like I thought like
Go on.
every Star Wars film after Return of the Jedi like is held to, and actually when we look back, we did it on the pod. Phantom Menace is nowhere near as bad as everyone makes out. No. I don't think it's really good fun, and the action's fantastic. Prometheus is a good example. Like that's again, I think that's an amazing sci-fi film. Dark Knight Rises is obviously really on point. Like it's when we did Dark Knight Rises for the pod, and it is, again, if it hadn't followed The Dark Knight, people would have been all over it.
But but the other thing I would say, some of these films fall into the trap of as well is the marketing around it.
Yeah, of
like expecting a certain thing and not that not being delivered upon. So like a lot of the negative reviews for Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker is because in 2015 or 2012 we were promised Luke, Leia, and Hannah getting back together on screen, and it never happened. So so spotlight wise, people were peeved about it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, sorry, I thought I was muted. Yeah, bro. Look, to summarize, I'm so happy that we get to go and watch films like this in the cinema in 2026 when actually, technology's running wild.
And do you know what's actually amazing with this as well, I should say? We've got people online discussing and debating Homer's Odyssey because Christopher Nolan shone a light on it.
Brilliant,
and I think that's incredible. Like, because, I've always been quite geeky. When I was a kid, I was really into the Romans. And then when I was older, I got into the Greeks. And then the Stephen Fry books came out and I really got into like learning about the different gods and what it means. And Jamie and I have talked about Battlestar Galactica, and there's a lot of links to like the gods in that and like the names of characters. So the fact it's now like open discourse to discuss which god should have been in it and what does this mean and what does that represent? I'm like, that's a really good, positive thing. And it's kids of all ages because, yes, it's 15 and above, but there's kids younger who've gone to see it. And like, I think it's a really positive thing. And also a film basically being like, society's terrible and this was the key event which led to that. And then Oppenheimer has a similar theme. And then people now start thinking of things that happen in our lifetimes, like, was it 9/11? Was it this? Was it that? And like, what was the key turning point for when things went wrong? Was it the birth of AI? Was it? And I just think like the fact
mate,
you
that's
are
what a depressing note. You're so right.
Don't start. You are, but
like,
you're
so right.
To have a story which is relevant and Nolan take a tale as old as time and respin it so you think about it in a different way. And we haven't really even said here, and we should say, one of the best sequences in the film, I'm shame on us for speaking for an hour and 47 minutes not mentioning it, is when Odysseus is tied to the mast of the boat and he tells all the crew to put wax in their ears, and he hears the song of the sirens. And when he describes what the sirens actually, what he hears, it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it's a hard film to watch once and then think you can get on your high horse about it. No pun intended. But it's.
He said, sorry. I think this is the quote, but it might not be right. He says, "You hear about what you want the most, but you can't have it anymore because it already happened. All the things you wanted to be, then all the things that you wished you'd all the things you wanted to be, and then all the things you wished you'd never wished for. It was delicious itch you want to scratch, but you find it under the skin and can't reach it. So delicious the itch becomes unbearable. It told you what you want is what you want most is what you can't have, and that what you most can't have is what you already had and lost. It was a song full of promise of all the promises I failed to keep, and it told me I don't really want to go home." I think that, like, for me, was my favourite part of all of it. And, like,
it's so poignant.
Deep, meaningful things.
That's
anyway,
so poignant.
And
like
on that
being
note,
38, mate, I think. All the things I wish I'd have wished for and all the things I thought I would be, and now I'm just a little stupid idiot. Anyway, right, that's the Odyssey. That's us. We are going to be covering Spider-Man Brand New Day.
Very
next.
excited. It looks so good.
I'm pretty excited for it. Yeah, I wonder what we'll pair it with. I might have a little think, or maybe we'll just do another spoiler cast. But let us know if you've got any pairings for us. But yeah, we'll try and do that. But yeah, our brand new day. Maybe I could think of something that would link in with it. I'm going to go away. In fact, tonight, John, I'm going to grab my iPad and I'm going to start doing some reading for the pod, because there's a few books that link to it that are
Yeah, I'd
sent to you
seen you
today.
send them over. The only thing that made me not read that is because I have an idea of where the plot's going. I just kind of want to see it as is. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And the main thing is, it's actually got colour in it, Jamie. It looks like Amazing Spider-Man 2. Someone's dialed up the saturation and the contrast on those Marvel colours. They're listening to feedback.
Thank God. So yeah, that's that. It was getting filmed. Some of it was getting filmed in Birmingham, I think. Anyway, which is not where we're from, because John, you can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Amazon Music. You can find us on YouTube if you type Movies in a Podshell. All one word, Tony. All the best, Tony. And you can find us on moviesinapodshell.sumupstore.com if you want to go and buy a t-shirt. It's all of it's super helpful. Like, just rate us 5 stars. It takes us to the top of the feed. Buy a t-shirt. It helps us fund the next t-shirt. And it helps us pay for our expensive service that we use to record the podcast. So just
Riverside.
basically just make us break even. That's all we want. All we care about is breaking even.
We should have played the Riverside.fm intro, which I discovered today. You can just press.
Do you want to play it now? Maybe they'll give us
It's actually quite long.
Powered by Riverside.
Yeah.
Hold on. Funky. Hell yeah, this has been Movies in a Podshell 105. I've been Jamie. John, where can they find you?
I thought it said Riverside again, but it didn't. Anyway.
Where can they find you, John?
At jcb.video.
You can find me.
Sorry.
Brilliant. Right. And on that note, see ya.